Time to rejoin the conversation. Okay, and we are back. And okay, here we go. Let's chop it up. So, have you ever gone somewhere and found yourself completely out of your element? So much so that it was uncomfortable, but you had to stay a while and people watch because you felt like you were watching people in their natural habitat. So there was a couple of things that have happened. A couple of things happened in the past. But actually, yesterday, so the anonymous female's brother and I, we wound up going to a Ray LaMontagne show, and great show, by the way. Now, to give you full context, he is mid-40s suburban white guy. And even he says to me, you know, I usually don't notice this kind of stuff, but I think there's this very specific demographic that's into Ray LaMontagne. and I happen to go, I think you're absolutely right. And he goes, I go, yeah, no, I've only seen 6 other black people, like period. And and during the course of the show, I only saw about 12 other black people, and only two couples, 2 black couples that actually were at the show. Now, that is not to say that Ray LaMontagne music wouldn't appeal to black people, but it is obviously not marketed to black people because there were no black people in there to speak of, to the point that he noticed it before I. Right. Like, he was like, "Damn." I was like, "This is not very diverse." No, it is not. But I had a great time, but it got me to thinking about being places where you kind of find yourself, you know, kind of people watching because you've seen people in a more natural habitat to them, and it's definitely not your habitat. But it also got me to thinking about this one time. A friend of ours, he wants to go do karaoke. And he seems to remember a place that at one point did karaoke that he used to frequent quite a bit. So we try to go there. So when we get there, we realize this is no longer a karaoke bar. And it happens to be, if anybody knows the Northland at all, it happens to be, I think it's called Smoking Aces on Northland. So, just so happens when we get there, this is an oddly PWT / ghetto bar at the same time. So you've got you've got really hood black people and what you would you probably call poor white trash in the bar at the same time.
Place to be.
It was just the weirdest mix of people. And everybody seemed to have the best time of their lives.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was so weird to the point that everybody was like, okay, we should probably go. This isn't where we want to be. And I was like, we got to wait for a little while. This is amazing.
See what happens.
This is amazing. I'm like, I feel like I am watching them. And I was like, crikey. there they go. I just felt like I was watching a natural habitat. It was so strange. And we sat there for about 10 minutes or so. We just kind of people watched before we finally left. But that image always stuck with me, just kind of catching people in their natural habitat. So I wondered, has anybody ever been somewhere and they realized that, oh, this is not for me, but it was so intriguing they couldn't just leave right away? I think I started with Big Dave the first time, so I'll go the other way and I'll start with Chris.
Yeah, definitely a trip to Germany last time. And when you say like Springfield, you know how there's a Springfield town in almost every state? My boss told me, yeah, you want to stay at Mulheim. And the problem is there's Mulheim an der Ruhr, by where our offices are at, the company I work for. There's Mulheim an der Mosel. I ended up at the Mosel, which is 2.5 hours away from our corporate headquarters. And they spoke no English.
Okay.
It's full-on German European.
Right.
And everybody walks around pretty much at the spa, pretty much no clothes on.
Okay.
And we're sitting in the sauna with the wife, and okay.
Right. I'm not 100% sure why they told me to come here.
It was my mistake, but it was rather interesting culture shock.
Oh yeah.
Midwest white boys.
So how long? How long did
we
you
had to stay
stay
there for 3-4 days because I was just locked in for some meetings and stuff. So it was quite interesting.
Okay.
So that's where the company took you to.
No, they told me to stay at Mulheim an der Ruhr, just like we say Springfield over here, which can be in multiple states. I stayed at Mulheim an der Mosel, different river, 2.5 hours away from headquarters. And it was the White Bear.
Oh, and you had booked a hotel there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was the White Bear, and I thought it was White Bar. Had little things on it, so they stayed upstairs, a little bar.
Okay.
But they had to be in a resort.
Gotcha.
Resort.
Okay.
And they spoke nothing but German.
Okay.
So it was very interesting.
Okay. I've definitely seen people in their natural habitat in more ways than one, apparently.
That's cool.
Jordan?
Sorry, I had to take a sip of my Japanese whiskey there.
Right.
Oh, wait, before you go on with your story, Ben, tell them what you poured him.
I poured him the Nika Miyagikyo. It's a Japanese whiskey. I have a lot of respect for Japanese whiskey because they are master craftsmen when it comes to spirits.
1969, you started the distillery.
Yeah, and just they do Scotch whiskey styling whiskey in Japan with excellent craftsmanship and water sourcing. So what he's drinking is certainly delicious.
I've had it. It's outstanding.
Okay. All right, now, Jordan.
Big Dave gonna probably have a lot of respect for this. I was down in New Orleans, and a couple months ago on business, and I stumbled across a second line. And
what's it called?
A second line.
All right.
And I had no idea. I've heard about it. I've seen them on YouTube or whatnot. So it was a funeral procession, I guess, and they were just going through the street, just partying. The band, they had
the full.
Yeah.
And if you don't move to it, you dead. They're going to give you one of them funerals where they march down the street because you move to that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
right.
Yeah, they had a guy on stilts. Man, they had topless women. It was just like babies were out there. So I found myself watching at first, like, man, let me see what this is about. And then I just kind of felt myself, moving. I felt myself really just taking in the whole vibe and the experience of it. So much so that, I came back, home. And I told my wife I want to have a second line for my son's birthday, in Kansas City. I just hadn't, it was something that I had to just sit there and watch. And try to, become involved to the best of my ability. But yeah, it was different, man. And it seemed like it had like no color barrier, like no gender. It was just, if you saw that second line, you joined in. and you appreciated the life of whomever. It was just a culture. It was a feeling. It was just like a true New Orleans thing.
In New Orleans, y'all have to understand is that it's a place unto itself. If you've never been there, I know a lot of our listeners are from overseas. You've never been to a place like New Orleans. It's a country unto itself. It is truly a unique place with unique music, unique cultures all over it. Such a mix of people, and they do get along, and we do party together, and we do dance in the street together, and we have our music, and we have our fade-o-dos, and our cooking, and everything that goes with it. It is such a cultural rich mix. Mm-hmm. Like there's no place on earth, I don't think, that has what New Orleans has.
Yeah, I have been fascinated by kind of New Orleans culture for years. One, I think it started with like seeing on some show or something, seeing the second lines. And then I remember a few years back when they did the TV show on HBO, Treme, and it was a look at New Orleans post-Katrina, but it was through the eyes of the musicians. And just seeing how dense the musical culture is down there. And I fell in love with the whole idea of the Mardi Gras Indian.
And you get the French Creole influence, which is really unique.
If anybody can get Treme, I don't know if it's on Netflix, I don't know where it is anymore, but Treme is the only show I've ever seen that really brought home what New Orleans is, because they had the Indians in there, they had the chieftains, they had the mix of the neighborhoods, they had everything about New Orleans was Treme.
Oh, yeah.
And Michelle and I never missed an episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because, man, every time I would watch that.
Right. Yeah, I was just like, that was, I love that show.
When the chief started singing and started doing his thing, it was just, and then, of course, the tuba player, that was the main character.
Oh, yeah.
And it epitomized, that not only just the joy of New Orleans, but also it was the trial and tribulations of New Orleans. New Orleans is at one place a very joyful, happy music place, and on the other side, it's a very tragic place too. And it could be such a mixture of so many things with the Creole and the Voodoo, and with the Cajun mix, and the mix of the French down there, and you add it all together, and it's such a mix. And I immersed myself in it. I totally got into it.
Yeah. So how long were you guys down there?
I was down there for like 3 or 4 days or so.
Was that the only second line you saw while you were down there?
It was, yeah. It was kind of just, I think I caught like the tail end of it. They were just moving on. But yeah, I saw it, and then I started to try to research it on YouTube and just get the full vibe. And that's when I also realized that New Orleans is a very small city. I was able to, just on foot, like, walk around, go to multiple places, and it seemed
as long as you know where to walk.
Right.
You got to be careful where you walk down there. Now, don't be a fool.
No, you're right about that. But no, so I went and caught in a Pelicans game and just kind of walked around the city, and it was cool, man. I like New Orleans a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Ben?
So back to concerts.
Yeah.
I think I told you I went to Ween when they were in town.
Oh, yeah, cool.
I knew a couple songs from high school. That I had a friend who's a member here who said, "Hey, I want to get tickets to this Ween show. Do you want to come?" I said, "Yeah, that sounds like fun," and it was a good show. But back to the whole.
You were looking at people in their natural habitat.
Yeah, mainly the mid to late '90s white stoner. In its natural habitat, I didn't see a single black person there.
Oh, now I fully believe that there were no black people at the Ween show. I believe that.
Hey, we're stoners.
And even as a white guy, I felt weird about that. I was like, what is... Okay. But that's what it was. So that was interesting, people watching. But I guess in a way, I've always kind of felt, even where I grew up, not really with it, you know?
Felt a little outside looking in.
Yeah, because I'm from Chillicothe, and it's just a bunch of people who want to stay where they are and never
Expand the visions of life.
No. Yeah, Dave, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Kirksville, was another town like Chillicothe.
Yeah.
These are mostly white towns. And we have people that, we grew up with, both Ben and I grew up, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Where, they're townies.
Yeah.
Townies is that's actually a coin term from Kirksville.
Right.
From the university folk, who went from the state. Anybody who wasn't there just for school.
You actually hear that quite a bit from people.
There's an old movie called Cutters that
for
nails that
similar
one.
reasons.
Okay.
Basically, marijuana, beer, and women.
Okay.
Meth.
Well, you got into that. You're younger.
Yeah. But, well, I mean, that's how it was whenever I went to Kirksville. But also being... So I guess my background's kind of weird, being as that I was a prosecutor's kid, so I had to be a social chameleon. I didn't subscribe to, like, I'm just going to be a part of the preppy kids or whatever. Even though I was friends with those guys, I wanted to be friends with every single group that I possibly could. Just, I guess, out of, I don't know, trying to understand people in general.
Yeah.
And coming from the fact that, just the way my dad raised me is that you're not better than anybody.
Yeah.
Well, Ben and I had a lot of similar things even in high school, I think, because I really wasn't associated with the group, and I don't think Ben was either.
No. We
kind of tended to hang around with a lot of people. We would hang around with the greasers, we could hang around with the stoners. I was a football player, I was a jock, so I hung around with those guys. We kind of hung around with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what made Ben and I a lot of who we are today. And I think once we left, it allowed us to understand different cultures and drop some of our opinions of other cultures.
Yeah.
And become more rounded people in our lives.
Yeah.
So I guess these days, like, it's, I don't know, for the past decade or so, it's like anytime I go to like a really popular bar,
Right.
where there's a lot of people, I feel way out of my element. Whereas it's funny because I've been in the service industry for 20 years.
Right.
Not feeling like right there, It's like I'm there and I'm just like, man, I wish there were just like 10 people here.
Right.
And everybody talked a few decibels lower than they're doing.
Yeah. And then you found this place.
Yeah, which this is perfect for me.
Yeah.
Because now I have like a bunch of people who just want to chill and, have a real conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas like a regular bar is just...
Yeah, it's
a completely
just
different...
traffic, right? It's not interpersonal relationship.
No.
It's just cocktail conversation. Yeah, I'll steal a line from Michael Connolly, one of my favorite authors, Lincoln Lawyer, and Harry Bosch series. And one of his lines that Harry Bosch, the detective, always says is, either everybody counts or nobody counts. And I take that one to heart.
And that's very true, though.
It's a very good line, right?
It's a great line, and it's very true. What about you, Big Day?
Oh, man. This has to go back down to Louisiana. In my early years, I got out of my troubles that I was having down in Dallas, and I got a job on the boats. And so I got sent back over to Texas, and I worked with Max Creel over there. And we came back in, and Max took some time off, and they put me on a boat with Pepper. Pepper was one of our black skippers. We went down to Venice, Louisiana. We're down there at the last town on the river. That's where the road ends.
Okay, so wait, let me pause real quick. Out there in podcast land, I'm going to guarantee that this story has something to do with women. But okay, let's go.
So, anyway, I used to Pepper and I used to sit on the boat, and we'd smoke a little and have a drink and get to telling each other jokes. And we started telling each other racist jokes one night. And he was telling me honky jokes, I'm telling him black jokes. We weren't calling black jokes at the time. And we just sit there drunk, laughing our asses off. So we got a night off, and there was a black bar up in Buras, Louisiana. And he says, man, y'all come bar with me tonight. And I said, yeah, man, that sounds like a great time. You know, I get along great together. I'm sure I'll get along real good. So we go in there, and R&B playing, and I would like R&B, and we're having a good time. We're sitting at the table with a bunch of brothers and sisters, and Pepper looks at me and says, hey, man, you ought to tell me that joke you told me the other night.
Oh, boy.
Pepper set you up.
And I, you know,
and you weren't thinking.
I'm the only white boy in the bar.
Right.
So you are in a place where, you know, I am kicking back, and I'm watching all the brothers and sisters down there having a good time. You know, there's a lot of what we call mulattoes. They do Cajun and black mix. So I guess I wasn't the only white one in them, but they're all mixed race. And there's a lot of mixed race down there because they all fuck each other. But
this is around New Orleans.
I said, Pepper, this is not a good idea.
Okay, you at least recognize that this was not a good idea. Okay.
And he looks right at me. He gets straight. He gives me the look at Mario when I talk certain politics to Mario he doesn't like. He gives me that stone cold look, you know. and Pepper's got this stone cold look, and all the brothers got this stone cold look. And I'm saying, I may die tonight. So I told the joke. And I got done with the joke. And they all just sat there with that stone-faced look at me. And I'm going, oh, my God, I am going to die tonight. You know, I'm 20 years old. So, you know, you're just young and dumb folk come at that time anyway. And finally, they all just busted out and
laughing.
I have never heard so many honky jokes in my life. Sure
That's
enough,
a new one. I actually haven't heard that one.
That's funny.
Sure enough. They got me up, and Pepper hooked me up with one of the local girls down there, and we got dancing and had a good time. And I did get laid that night.
Okay.
And I did enjoy myself.
Okay.
Very, 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 very much.
As I said, this was going toward a very specific place.
I may have been out of my element, but the element come to me.
Can we cheers to Dave?
Hey, cheers to Dave.
Out of my element, but
Make the most of it, right?
Hey, cheers to the element coming today.
Let's have a cheers to Jackie, too.
Yes.
To Miss Jackie.
Yeah, about saying
To her health, she gets better quickly.
Praying for a speedy recovery. So I mentioned a couple things at the beginning. So one time, Jackie and I were going to this Italian restaurant, and we had actually gone there for lunch with another friend of ours. Had a great time. Place was full. She just, she's like, oh, we should go for dinner one night. So we're going to go for dinner. We wind up there. We're the only people there that weren't supposed to be there. It wasn't full by any means. It was just everybody that was there obviously was not expecting us to show up. And anybody out there who doesn't know, Jackie's white. Of course, I'm black. So we walk in and mixed race couple into this Italian restaurant. And in that moment, it's one of those things where it's almost like in the movies where the record just everybody stops talking and everybody's looking at us. Everybody's smiling, it's not like they're scowling or anything. Everybody's smiling, but nobody's talking anymore. And after a minute, I go, I think we should leave. And she goes, what? What's going on? And I'm like, we walked in on the middle of something we shouldn't be in on. This seems like family business going on. And she didn't catch what that meant at first.
I'm married to a Sicilian. I caught it.
Oh, yeah. But as soon as we got outside, she was like, what? I says, there was obviously some very Italian shit going on in there that we didn't have any business being a part of, and they weren't very happy that we showed up. It was time for us to go. And so, but I really wanted to sit there for a while and see if they started back up in whispers or something.
You should have, actually.
But it should have.
You probably should have, because that's one thing you got to do, because you go immerse yourself into an element sometimes. Your first impression is somewhat right, but your second impression is, hey, I got in there, I'm cool, hang with me. You find you might like me.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
And normally, I'm definitely, you know what, most people like me, I'm going to chill. Just that particular night,
well,
it didn't feel like our night.
Now, I will say this about my wife, you know, Chris has an old Oldsmobile that we're going to go on a Route 66 trip with.
Okay.
So my wife and I met him, and we went out to dinner with him and his wife. Then we went for ice cream afterwards. And Michelle gets out and she says, "Pop the trunk." She goes, "Ooh, that's a 3-body trunk." So there's the woman I'm married to.
That was a very Sicilian thing to say.
How many bodies you can get in the trunk.
That was a very Sicilian thing to say.
True, right?
True. We'll check it out after the podcast.
That is hilariously funny, because I can only imagine his wife who I know saying this with a very straight face. Say, "Oh wow, this is a big trunk. This is at least a 3-body trunk." I can see her saying that without flinching, because she's very Sicilian.
This reminded me of another story.
Yeah.
Speaking of mob or Italian joints, I think I've told you this story at least. Have you been to the Red Front? Anybody?
Where?
The Red Front.
Red
Front.
Oh, Red Front, no.
So there's a little bar called the Red Front over there, kind of behind.
Admiral?
Yeah.
Rivamacca.
Yeah.
Heard about it.
Behind Grand Street over there.
Okay, yeah.
On Thursday nights, well, this is what I came to find out, is went in there one night, pretty, kind of drunk,
Yeah.
and hanging out with some service industry people, and all of a sudden we look over, and first of all, there's this DJ playing, right? And I'm thinking, man, this DJ is pretty solid.
Right.
Holy shit. And then I look over, and there's literally a bondage party going on. tying people from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And this is the theme of the night. There's a bondage DJ theme.
Wow.
But what I thought was most interesting was the fact that not only was there a bondage party going on, there was a DJ for it, and the DJ's really good. I love this guy's music. I am feeling this. Mm-hmm. And apparently they do this every Thursday, but it's one of those moments where I'm like, I'm not in my element.
Did you get tied up on the
I did not.
Okay, all right. We just had to check.
Yeah.
Although that actually does
an observer.
Actually, that does remind me of one other story. So, when I first moved here, it's probably now almost 12 years ago. Me and a neighbor couple of mine, we go to what used to be the Cashew. And so bar downstairs really full. We wound up going upstairs because they used to have 2 or 3 rooms you can sit and kind of chill upstairs, and they were open air. So
we had our friend Mark Church there.
Yeah. So you can go up there and you could smoke and stuff because. So we went up there, and so we're sitting there, and that room's pretty full too, but we found a couple seats, so we're sitting there and we're chilling, and we realized after a while that it's a bunch of couples in their upper 40s and 50s, and
guess where this is going.
And we're looking around, and then everybody's kind of like giving us the side eye and whispering, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and then somebody said something to me that, and to this day I don't remember the words they used, but what they said didn't make any sense at the time. What I find out was they were trying to throw code words at me if I was into swinging.
Yeah.
And so after a little while, this one couple, they really started trying to cozy up. And I'm like, this is feeling weird and uncomfortable. And then the guy finally goes, so what do you think of my wife? She's pretty hot, huh? And I go, dude, that's your wife. Like, what are you talking? What are we talking about here? And then it hit me. Oh, we just walked to a swinger party. You two can do whatever you want. I think I should go at this point. And I was definitely.
Did your friends stay?
No, we all left.
Man,
we all left.
You could have had something on them.
We all left.
That's been some serious dirt.
I wound up falling out with that couple anyway, because he turned out to be a dirtbag, and I didn't know that at the time. It turned out to be a dirtbag, and she turned out to be a dirtbag enabler. And
strange ranger.
As long as it's all consensual, I don't judge.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Whatever you want to do is fine with me. Just don't include me in your stuff, because they invited me to a couple of things, and I was like, are you? What? Yeah, why would you invite me to this?
Yeah, they should at least have a conversation.
Yeah. As soon as you walk in the door, you're like, oh, it's like this up in here.
I got an old black friend of mine that I play golf with. And he's a really good golfer. And they had a swingers golf tournament.
Oh, wow.
So my wife and I thought for a minute that, golf swingers, and Kenny's active getting black folks into playing golf.
Right.
As he's swinging the clubs.
Right, there's what, yeah.
Bingo.
So you thought.
Yeah, and so my friend Lon Gosser, one of my coon-ass friends, I said, their golf tournament wasn't about golf swinging, was it? He goes, oh no, that's the Kansas City Swingers. And I said, Kenny and his lady are part of that. And I said, That's a tournament I don't need to be playing. Hilarious. That'll get to Sicilian, will dismember me and put me in Boston Harbor.
That is hilarious.
We're in a 3-person trunk.
Oh, boy. All right. With that, unless anybody else has got any more stories they want to share, with that, we'll be right back. Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party. Okay, and we are back. And before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar honey iced tea. And for those that don't know, these are things that I or a member of the group have found that are really cool, aka the shit. And today's sugar honey iced tea is comfort. In order to define comfort, I thought I should start with the definition of habitat. And a habitat is a place or environment where a plant or animal naturally or normally lives or grows. The typical place of residence of a person or group, a housing for a controlled physical environment in which people can live under surrounding inhospitable conditions.
Like the Inuit, you talk about swingers.
The Inuit, yeah. So I suppose that in order to gain comfort, you've got to undergo some degree of discomfort. The process of creating a habitat in which you can remove your armor and just be while the rest of the world rages on. So in a past podcast, we talked about Olympians training for 10,000 hours in order to perform at that crucial moment where they need to. You can say that they built a habitat for themselves that was uncomfortable so that when tested, they could comfortably shine. So that got me to thinking. You can never underestimate the feeling that is comfort. But never forget that you have to create comfort, and that comfort comes from a habitat. And that habitat may be uncomfortable, and that's okay. Because in order to gain anything in life, sometimes you're going to have to be uncomfortable. You know, actually, before the show started, Chris and I were talking about, I saw a video from Will Smith, and he was talking about preparing his brother-in-law to work for his company. And so his brother-in-law comes to him and says, I want to work for the company. He looks at his brother-in-law up and down, and he says, first of all, you want to be in entertainment. You're skinny with a gut. That's not going to work. Come back to me when you have a six-pack. I'm like, that's preparation in and of itself. So sometime later, the brother-in-law comes back to him. They're at a family gathering or whatever, and he goes, hey, lift up the shirt. Let me see. So he had hooked him up with his trainer, and his trainer says, yeah, let him see. Lifts up the shirt. He has a six-pack. He goes, okay, good. Now, find this book, read this book. When he finds this book, he said it's thick as the Bible. It's 1,000 pages. But it's about story. He gets through that book, and he gives them 14 other books to read. All of them fairly thick, all of them about construction of story. What I'm saying is, what he wanted to do was be in the entertainment business. That was his comfort level. But in order for him to get there, he had to go through the habitat, which is uncomfortable, to rework his body and rework his mind in order to be prepared to perform comfortably in uncomfortable situations. So I say all that to say, if you're trying to get anywhere in life, you want to get to a level, and you hear people say this all the time, oh, I don't want to be rich, I want to be comfortable. Well, if that's really where you want to be, how long are you willing to be uncomfortable to get there?
For me, it was 17 years.
Amen.
That's 11 years of my business.
Exactly.
I do have an opposite. The deer on my hunting property are very comfortable because I provide them good habitat. They eat well, they have beautiful woods to live in. And then when it comes hunting season, they become very uncomfortable. So it's a little opposite view of it, right?
Hey, well, but you know, you're creating a habitat for them in order for you to do something that is reasonably uncomfortable
for them.
For them.
I find great comfort in it.
So you can thin that herd a little bit.
Yeah. Hard work definitely. Hard work definitely improves your luck.
There you go.
You don't make the effort.
Yeah,
you're not going to get the breaks.
There you go.
And I agree with that entirely. Working up here, I have never felt a level of peace and comfort that I ever had. But if I was just some schlep in my industry who just accepted being a body, I would never survive up here. I wouldn't be accepted up here.
Yeah. And you know what? That's why we like you. Because you're willing to go through the trial by fire in order to be an excellent bartender, because up here, anyway, that's what matters.
Yep.
Look, I can go behind a drink and just pour an ounce or two.
Yep.
But, to do some of the things you've done and create your own cocktails and like that takes a certain level of commitment that not everybody's willing to do.
Right. And the customers have a certain amount of comfort because, as Ben Wells knows, I come in and I say, Ben, mix me a drink. And I know that Ben's going to mix me a good drink.
And he'll never make you sick either. He'll never put something on your gut you can't stand.
There you go.
Yep.
But that's the difference we talked about earlier, Mario, about being good versus great, right? Going the extra mile.
Going the extra mile.
Yep, and I still got a long way to go. I've met people in my industry who I absolutely admire and know that I'm not even on their level. And that's an interesting dichotomy where I know where I'm at, and I think, I'm all right. I'm great to a lot of people, but whenever I compare myself to others, that I can see the difference between what I am now and what they are. I know where I got to go.
You can always get better, and you always have to try to get better.
Mm-hmm.
You should never be satisfied with who you are and where you are as far as what you're good at. You should always try to get better at it, and that's the mark of greatness.
And that is the mark of greatness.
That's the shit.
And with that, I'm going to end this podcast the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people.